Hello and welcome. I'm Mary Lee LaBay, founder of Integrative Healing Arts Academy. In this video, I'm joined by one of my graduates of the Integrative Hypnotherapy and Past Life Regression Professional Training course, Graham Robinson. Today, we're diving into one of my favorite topics, past life regression. So if you're curious about reincarnation and discovering who you may have been in other lifetimes, stay with us. There's so much to explore. So Graham, please introduce yourself and then we'll dive in.
Hi, Mary Lee. As you said, I'm a graduate of your academy, and the reason I actually went to train with you is because of the past lives work that you do and have done for 30 years. Like you, I read your book and I read other books about past lives, and I was just amazed. I mean, I didn't disbelieve before at all. I believed in reincarnation, but I didn't understand what it meant. I didn't have any clue. And then as I started to experience by reading and then working in your classes, it's quite an amazing thing. And since then, as we have spoken before, I have done past life work. And even past life work where I've been able to verify the things that I've seen in that past life. So yes, it's quite amazing. But if you wanted to explain to me the first day I come to you and say I want to know about past lives and what it means, what would you say to a complete novice?
Well, I would say that, let's see, they want to experience. First of all, I'd say, well, it's a very important part of your spiritual journey and your understanding of yourself. So if you want to explore them, obviously they probably already believe in them if they think that that's a valuable pursuit. So mostly I would just be really excited and maybe ask them what it is that they want to achieve in the past life. What is their motivation? What would they like to get out of the session? Because there's so many things that we can learn and grow and heal and do within the past life session.
Do you find people are more curious or more inclined to find healing in past life?
So people that don't really understand that we can do the healing, they're coming out of curiosity, but then they realize the power of this technique, of this pursuit, and then they do get excited about the healing part. I mean, how many times have we said, "Oh, that's probably a carryover from a past life," right? And we're sort of unconsciously talking about it, but maybe in a flippant way. And then they come in and they find out, oh, that's something we can actually address or go look for.
So why do we not, and I will ask you about more about healing later in the program, but why do we not remember our past lives in this life? Why do we not have an automatic memory of them?
Right. Some people do, and there's a lot of reports of children that come in, and when they start to become verbal, they start talking about either what they did in another lifetime or people that they knew or locations. They identify, oh, I used to live there in my other lifetime or something. And a lot of times that is um, dismissed, the parents, oh, that's cute, Johnny, run along. And they don't take it seriously. So then we're kind of programmed as children that it's nothing to be paying attention to. That's not an important pursuit. And so we tend to focus more on the physical world, which is in its own a big undertaking. So we're born, we're just trying to figure out, how do our eyes work? What are all these sounds? What's happening? How do I get my needs met? How do my hands and feet work? How to walk, how to talk, how to communicate. So there's so many other distractions that by the time we look back and go, okay, where did I come from? a lot of that has just disappeared, like waking up from a dream and um and think in the in that minute you're like, oh, I remember this dream, and then you get busy with your day. Oh, I'm late to work and I need to shower and get ready, and then you go, ah, what was that dream? Oh, now I don't remember, it's gone. And so our past lives are like that. And then there's a couple of other reasons. One is that when you died, maybe it was under very painful situations. So maybe you're being tortured or you're dying in war or something, and you just want to get out of this life, right? It's just, I'm done, get me out of here. And I want to forget about all of that. And so you're consciously telling yourself to forget those events. So it could be that. Um, and the other one would be if you've done something really shameful, or you regret or something like that, where you're kind of blocking that off and really not wanting to remember that you did that, right? So there's a number of reasons why we forget, but there are people who, as we evolve, and typically, just let me do this first, as full-on human beings, we would remember. That would be, we would come in, we would, meet each other and say, oh, wow, remember in the 5th century when we went on that adventure, or, remember when we were married, or when I was your father or your mother or whatever. We would have those memories, but we're, especially in our culture, we're just not programmed to think that way. So then we dismiss it. In fact, a lot of religions forbid it, or you know uh, say that it's not true, a lot of belief systems. And so then people feel guilty if they do pursue it. I've come across clients like that too. Oh, I think it would be a sin to look at my past lives. And I'm thinking, that's your life. Nobody can tell you whether to remember it or not, right? This is your property. Nobody can take that away from you.
In your estimation, how many past lives do you think we may live? I mean, is it countless?
Yes, it's infinite,
Right.
absolutely infinite. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, I've read books where they say you have 12 past lives. The universe is not that confined. That's not that limited. Okay, a way to look at this is, if you have a spirit and it, comes into the embryo, let's say, it attaches to that physical body, that physicalness, and figures out how to animate it and grow it, and you're in that body, and you've done it once, what would prevent you from doing it again, right? So we're all living proof that our spirit and our psyche and our soul is animating this flesh. And so we already know how to do it.
Does does it operate in parallel timelines, in a different timeline when we're talking about spirits and the spirit world? That's a different timeline to what we are operating in. Is that correct? So what I'm asking, I suppose, in a more simple term, is if you're in the spirit world, 100 years is not like the 100 years that we would celebrate on Earth.
Oh, okay. Right. So you're talking about chronological time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So chronological time um, is something that we experience in the physical world. When you're astral projected or you're between lives, it's timeless. And so um, you could be dead, like you said, you could be dead 100 years and come in and incarnate in the next day. You could be gone a long time, learn a lot of things, have a lot of experiences, and then incarnate, and it's just the next day. Or you could be gone. You could die and immediately think, oh my God, I need to incarnate right away. I don't, this is disorienting, and drop into a body that is 100 years in the future or 500 years in the past. You can incarnate. Your next incarnation could be in the past or the future. So,
Okay, I didn't realize that. So you can incarnate back. Okay.
yeah, I
See,
always
there's even more questions there.
I know. It's endless. I think of it
Yes.
as almost like an embroidery hoop, right? So my embroidery hoop has an infinite number of places where I can put the needle through, right? An infinite number. And I can, but that hoop is mine. Nobody else has any of those points because they're all my points, right? They're in my hoop. But I can come up in any of those locations when I incarnate. So if the needle is on the upper side, then I'm in a physical body, and then the needle goes down and I'm in the other worlds, the astral, and I can bring the needle up anywhere in the future or the past.
You mentioned just earlier that, of course, if you suffer a trauma in your past life, you obviously that's a good reason why you may not remember it, or you may have blockages. Um, so when you go in to heal, do you go in to look for that trauma, or do you, as the therapist, do you explore to see where they are really suffering, and can you heal it in the past life? Is that where you heal it?
That's kind of a unique feature of the therapy that I do. So I was a past life regressionist for many years before I became a clinical hypnotherapist. So I went through my whole training, and then I realized, oh my gosh, the power of the combination of this. And so in the beginning, when I was doing past lives, it was really more like a sightseeing tour where we'd just go in and whatever showed up would show up, and it was a lot less focalized. And so then when I learned the clinical techniques, I realized we could apply that within the past life just like we do in the present life. So if a person is experiencing anything, some kind of trigger, or or if they even want to learn about a relationship or heal a relationship, but let's say it's a trigger or a disease or something, and in the session it guides us, well, there's a root to this in another lifetime. Then we can go in and we can actually apply the hypnotherapy techniques there. We have to do it pretty cautiously, but there's a lot of huge benefit in doing that. And I'll give an example. When I work with people have addictions, so let's say an alcoholic, any kind of addiction like that is not going to be localized in one lifetime. I mean, maybe you drink too much on Saturday night and that's it. Well, that's not going to affect a lot. But if there's a chronic addiction, excuse me, I immediately want to go into past lives, because either this lifetime has influenced those lifetimes, or those lifetimes are influencing this life and driving that person towards the addiction. So we go into 4 or 5 different lifetimes, maybe what we call hub lifetimes, that feature importantly, like it's like dominoes, we want to find the main domino that we can push and collapse this addiction. So we go into a lifetime, we figure out, how did that get started? What was the trigger in that lifetime that caused that person to turn to drugs or alcohol or some kind of addiction? And then, we look at it, we may do some therapy there. We look at another one and another one, and we find out both what is the theme, what is it that triggers the person to become an addict, and how do we fix that? What is the remedy? So we can go in those lifetimes, fix those lifetimes, and now this person is only addicted in this lifetime, and we can fix it here and it's done. When we don't go into those other lifetimes, we have the problem of, we're working on trying to overcome the addiction here, but then they're being drawn into it from these, it's like the
Mm.
foundation has these addictions and we're trying to fix it here, but this is still influencing. So we take the influence away and then it's really easy just to get it over with here in this lifetime. But
It does make sense though, doesn't it? That if,
um,
3 lifetimes ago you had a problem and you started drinking, that you draw that through with you. I remember during the training that you spoke about a lady who visited you, who had severe migraines, and you went back and found a point where she was actually struck on the head by an axe, and you were able to work on that, which is quite amazing that you're able to go back and see that and work on that life that has been hurt. When you go back to past lives with somebody like that and you find them in that traumatic setting where they've been in a war or they are in a war and they're struck, does the person feel anything? Are they looking at it from an observer point of view, or are they actually in the body that's been hit by the axe and they feel that pain?
depends on the situation and it depends on the client. Some clients, sometimes we're going in and that happens, they go through that life and it happens so quickly, we can't do much about it. I mean, there they are, they can feel it, it happened. And what I do is I ask them to immediately move past that to when they feel okay again. They're probably dead, or maybe dead, until that pain is not there anymore. And then we look back on it as an observer from a third party perspective, right? And we can do it that way, or we can go into it that way if they if if we know that there's been an injury, we can, maybe they're in a war, they take it, their subconscious mind takes us to a war scene and we're looking for an injury. We have the techniques to then have them float up above it and watch how the scene unfolds so that they can observe it without feeling it. So we can manage it either way. But sometimes it's okay to leave them in the pain. I'll have to tell you, I have a little dark side of me. Early on, I had a client. She was a mother and she had 2 teenage kids. And for Christmas, she gifted them past life regressions, which I thought was so cool. This was probably 40 years ago. And so they each came in to do their past life regression. So she's sitting next to me, and her son, who's 19, is in the hot seat, right? So I take him into a past life, and the very first thing that happens to him, he starts moaning, and he's like, "Oh, I'm in so much pain," and I'm trying to orient myself to his vision. I said, "What's going on?" And he said, well, he called himself a squaw. I guess we don't use those words anymore, but a Native American woman. And I'm squatting down in the teepee and I'm delivering a child. And so he's going through these birth pains, right? And so I looked at his mother and I looked at him and I said, "And what else do you experience? And what is that like?" And so I thought, I can give him 5 minutes of birthing pains. It's not going to kill him. Women go through it all the time. And afterwards, I said, "Well, I figured that as a man, you would appreciate your mother all the more. And when you get married and your wife is having a baby, you may be the only man on the planet who actually knows what that feels like." So I did leave him in the pain for just a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And then you just move beyond that and then he can look back at the experience. but he was okay with it, you know.
I was going to say, do you remember what he said to you afterwards at the
Right.
end of the session? Um, So, just before we finish, so that brings up the other point I wanted to ask. Just because we're a male in this life or a female in this life doesn't mean we've always been male or female, does it? We can interchange and be very much different people.
We can be different genders, we can be different religions, speak different languages, live in different cultures. I mean, I remember Asian lifetimes, African lifetimes, South American lifetimes, Caucasian, you know, all the different things, and lived in lots of places. So what's nice about that is if you start really relating to a culture, and then you go to learn the language, it's a lot easier because you recognize that you're simply remembering a language that you've already spoken. And so that comes a lot faster.
Yes, I mean, I know I've been back to a life in the 1400s, but it was in England. But I've also been back to a life in 1000 BC in a cave.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, all of us in the cave were killed, but that's another story. But yeah, so it's quite amazing that all of that happens. I believe next time we'll be delving a bit deeper into past life healing and pre-birth or early childhood memories, which, of course, is also fascinating that you know, they come into the embryo and they don't naturally. Is it correct? And I won't explore it now too much, but do they not come in immediately that you conceive? It can be at any stage in the development of the child in the fetus. Is that
You
correct?
mean the attachment of the
Yeah,
soul?
yeah,
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 maybe we should leave it as a mystery.
yeah. As to why, because
Because it doesn't, yeah,
I found that very
yeah.
interesting, and we'll explore that next time.
Yeah, it doesn't happen necessarily. It could or not, you know, and
All
so
right.
oh, we'll talk about that next time.
Tremendous.
So are those all your questions for today?
They are indeed.
Oh, great. All right. Well, thank you, Graham, first of all, and thank you everyone who's listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.